I rise, my name is Suleiman Abdul-Kwari. I rise to move a motion on the need to address the increasing rate of traffic accidents along Kaduna-Zaria Road. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this motion is co-sponsored by 22 others. The Senate notes that the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Works, Housing and Power, in June 2018, launched the reconstruction of Abuja-Kaduna, Zaria, and Kano Road with 36 months completion period. Notes also that the development led to the creation of many diversions, leading to gridlock, accidents, and loss of lives and properties on the road. Worried that due to lack of fully equipped emergency medical units on the road, people involved in accidents who ought to have been saved lost their lives due to lack of prompt medical assistance. Worried also that many travelers on that road suffer untold hardship and are exposed to numerous risks due to blockades and several diversions. This in turn results to loss of lives, time, accidents, and sometimes deaths. Disturbed that the accident, which occurred on the 10th June 2019, claimed many lives, including 4 police cadets who were in their 400 level at Police Academy, Kano, and a professor of pediatrics with Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Disturbed also that despite the number of recurring accidents and untold hardship by motorists, the Federal Road Safety Commission, Kaduna State Sector Command, has only a small emergency unit in Birnin Yero to attend to accident victims with only 1 ambulance. Observed that the contractor handling the road project has no safety engineers who are expected to take safety measures to protect motorists and other road users, and also observed that the causes of accidents on Nigeria roads include overspeeding, dangerous overtaking, overloading, use of expired Tokumbo tires, reckless driving, phone calls, disregard for traffic rules and regulations, amongst others. Accordingly, the Senate resolves to 1. Observe a minute silence for those who lost their lives on the road since the work commenced. Urge the Federal Ministry of Health to establish emergency medical units, including a trauma center. And also, a third prayer is hereby added to what was mistakenly left out of the other paper. Urge the Federal Ministry of Works, Power, and Housing to, as a matter of urgency, direct action towards timely completion of the project. I so move, Mr. President.
I'm not sure if
I represent Enugu East Senatorial Zone. I would like to commend Senator Abdul for bringing up this motion and sympathize with those that have lost their lives. In seconding this motion, I cannot join this debate without reflecting on the general state of healthcare in our nation, especially as it affects emergencies, trauma care. Here you have an imagined underdeveloped democracy, where in the extreme, women die from childbirth, which should be a purely physiological process. Children die from diarrhea in emergency, die from malaria, die from anemia. And you extend that all to the extreme, where societies, you have students having knowledge of cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, where blood banking facilities are available, where there are clear trauma ambulance network, where you have partnership with federal government, state governments, local governments, trauma units in hospitals, and trauma surgeons. But in Nigeria, we have to start somewhere. There has to be a meeting point. That meeting point will be for the Federal Ministry of Health, in partnership with the State Ministry of Health and local government, to provide adequate signage on the road directing victims to proper emergency centers. Working in partnership with local hospitals, trauma unit and trauma surgeons, to provide a network to evacuate these patients. This is where we can start in Nigeria today. As our country continues to develop, we can introduce CPR to the general citizenry, so that when these things happen, other passengers can intervene, and there will be attenuating mechanisms while specialist care arrives. I so second this motion.
Mr. President, my name is Gabriel Suswam, Benue Northeast. Mr. President, once again, this motion is talking to us about our situation in the country. In the past few weeks, we have discussed infrastructural deficit in this country. Road, as we all know, is a very important factor in enhancing the economic well-being of the country, because in a third world country such as ours, most of the goods and services are transported through road. Where you have serious road infrastructure, Mr. President, you know that it will affect the economy as a whole. Now, you are talking about loss of lives. About a week ago, distinguished Senator KJ brought a motion to the effect that there was an accident that resulted into loss of lives and property. Today, the distinguished colleague from Kaduna is bringing a similar motion. Mr. President, most of us senators and most Nigerians travel by road in this country. And if you travel by road, Mr. Senate President, you will discover that the deficit in road infrastructure is so high, and there is the need for us to urgently, given the powers of appropriation that we have, to address this by not just allocating money for the constructions of road, but also to oversight it properly. Mr. President, in the last 4 years, before I came here, you hear 600 billion released for construction of road, this much amount of money allocated for construction of road. But if we go to the roads themselves, the money and the construction is not commensurate with what has been allocated. And so one begins to wonder what the problem is. I think distinguished Senator Gaya is a senator here who I learned was the former chairman of Works. Mr. President, probably when he has an opportunity to comment on this, he will tell us about the oversighting function of the committee as it relates to road infrastructure. Because there's a problem. If we go, most of these accidents are caused by drivers dodging the potholes. Some of these potholes are not potholes. They can swallow a whole human being of my height. And because they're dodging at all time, as we are talking, if we go out, there are accidents caused as a result of these bad roads that we have. And so this is a motion that must be taken seriously. And this motion must and have to address the issue of road infrastructure, not just the one that has been referred to in this motion, but as it affects the entire country. Because there's no single place, there's no part of this country where you go that you find any good road for a stretch of 100 kilometers. And a lot of money has been allocated to this road infrastructure. So, Mr. President, we need to seriously, when committees are constituted, the Committee on Works must be given serious mandate to carry out its oversight function so that the money allocated, we know that is addressing the issues that affect Nigerians. Mr. President, I think this is a serious motion that all of us must support and also urge, when it comes to additional prayers, I think Mr. President will also allow us to add additional prayers on this. Thank you.
My distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Kabiru Gaya, representing the people of Kano South from Kano State, former chairman Works Committee, the 8th Senate. I would like to commend the mover of this motion, Audu Kwari, who his motion could be termed into 3 categories. One, he talked about the roads constructions. The other issue is the issue of medical facilities along the road in case of emergencies. And the third issue is the road users. The drivers on the road, how they drive on the road, and the speed. But most importantly, if you have good road, and the roads are maintained, and the city limits are observed, you have a free accident road. Mr. President, as Chairman Works, we went around to 33 states of the Federation. That's the first time any committee of works went around Nigeria with 33 states. We saw the good and the bad and the ugly roads in Nigeria. Federal government is working on 34,000 kilometers of road with a budget of, initially in the last registration before Buhari's administration, we have spent 28 billion on 34,000 kilometers of road. When President Buhari came in, it moved to 200 billion, 300 billion, and almost 400 billion last budget. There are numerous roads, Mr. President. Advice has to be used now to have self-financing of roads, because there is no way federal government can be able to take care of 34,000 kilometers with a budget of 200 billion. Sir. But still, this government has done a lot. The Kano-Abuja road was neglected for over 18 years. All the way is port roads. Now the road is under construction. The only issue which I think I will agree with Senator Abdu, is that the third prayer which he wanted to mention was not inclusive. When the prayer times, I will put that prayer, sir. There is always, in the road concession, there is a way for effective traffic management. Now, if the contractor would deploy that effective traffic management, there will be less problems on the road. And secondly, the drivers should be able to, and also the Road Safety Commission, should be able to have a lot of signposts to control the traffic, the drivers or the road users. So therefore, it's an important motion, and I would suggest that also the Federal Road Safety Commission should introduce more points for safety, because there should be more points to intercept, because for the whole of 130-something kilometers, you have only 1 point of emergency. There should be improvement on more emergency points in case of any accident. But also, please warn the driver. But the government has done a lot on roads, and I'm sure they will continue with the last budget to improve on many roads in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President.
Deputy Leader.
Senatorial District. I rise to support the motion moved in respect of the condition of road. Mr. President, land transportation constitutes almost 90% of means of transportation in Nigeria. The railroad or the railway network is embryonic. The aviation transportation system is not affordable by many Nigerians. So we rely on land transportation. And I believe that much attention should be given to the construction of roads. I, by myself, have taken the trouble to go around Ondo State to look at the roads. That's about 2 years ago. And I have come to the conclusion that Ondo State has the worst state of roads in the country. When this issue was taken up with the Honorable Minister of Works, we were surprised to know that some of the roads that we observed that were very bad were said to have been completed. And I think this brings to fore the issue of oversight. It is one thing for the ministry to allocate resources for construction and maintenance of roads. But if the oversight function is not done properly, then we have these problems. The Owo, Ijuani, Okine Road is said to have been completed. And the problem we have, in fact, I don't know whether to call them potholes. These are holes that can, take a whole trailer, vehicle, bigger than potholes. And yet, on their records, that road has been completed. So I think when our committees are constituted, the Committee on Works has a lot to do in terms of oversight. Not only oversight, the quality of roads, the base of the roads are not solid enough to take the load that is going on it. So I think a lot has to be done, not only just construction, but the quality of roads that we have in this country. And I think also FEMA also should be involved in maintenance. When roads are constructed and they are not maintained at the right time, of course, they will deteriorate and become a nightmare for road users. Mr. President, I wholeheartedly support this motion. Thank you.
And the likes. So I think we really need to look at the time frame of any contract.
Mr. President, let me first of all condole and commiserate with the families of those who lost their lives through accidents that occurred on the road being mentioned in this motion. And again, having said so, let me also commend my good friend Senator Solomon Query for sponsoring this motion because it's important we bring to the fore the accidents that are occurring on these very, very important roads so that we can save life. Wouldn't want to see our citizens dying every day on this road. And also commend Mr. President for awarding the contract for the construction of this very, very important road. I was around when the work started, when the ceremony took its start, the construction of the road was done. It started from the end, the Kano end of the road. It's a legacy project, very, very project, which will help in alleviating the sufferings we are facing, particularly in northern states in respect to bad road network. It is clearly stated here in the motion that the major reason why we have these accidents occurring on this road is the attitude of our road users. They don't bring caution into the way they drive. They drive recklessly. Most of the users, I wouldn't say all, most of them, particularly drivers of golf vehicles, they don't care about any sign that is placed on the road because there are diversions, as said by Senator Ibrahim Hassan, several diversions because of the work going on that very road. But they don't respect the signs that are being kept on the road to tell them or to caution them that overspeeding is dangerous because of the state of the road. They don't care. And that's why you have these accidents occurring day in, day out. It's very simple. If they are to abide by the signs that are being placed all over the road, I don't think we'll experience the accidents that are occurring every day on this road? Well, I think the road safety has its own fault. Since they've known the attitude of our people, of our road users, they should increase the monitoring. Well, they monitor the road, they try to get their men along the road, but they should do more so that what is happening in terms of accidents will be curtailed and wouldn't be experiencing these deaths. And again, also, the medical facilities for emergency situations that do occur should also be increased, so that if there are accidents, instead of going to instead of looking for a hospital which might be very far from the spot where the accident occurred, you can have these mini facilities that will take care of emergency situations. That should be increased so as to save lives. Mr. President, I will speak with loud voice that our road users should be very, very careful and obey the road signs that are placed on these roads so that they can save their lives. Driving recklessly is not good for anyone, and it will increase the number of deaths that will occur on this road due to accidents. I want to commend again Senator Kwari for this motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Deputy Minority.
And cause nuisance to other road users. Mr. President, we also have passengers in the vehicle. You see driver that is driving recklessly and dangerously, they don't even talk. But when there's an accident, not only the driver will die, but many passengers will die in that accident, leaving families that have lost their breadwinners. So the issue is not just the state of the road, but the human factor that involves not just the drivers, but including the passengers who stayed in the vehicle and will chatting, and in fact, in some cases, encouraging the driver to speed up because they have somewhere to catch. These drivers who are not trained, who don't even know that you don't overtake if you don't have a clearer sight, will be rushing to reach their destination and therefore causing a lot of calamity. So, Mr. President, I think the solution is to make sure that the people that are given this assignment of giving licenses to drivers sit up and do their job. And make sure that before you get a driving license, you are thoroughly schooled and knows the traffic rules and regulations. And also, the people entrusted with enlightenment need to start public enlightenment. That the issue of accident is something that involves all of us. How many of us uses our seat belts when we are driving? That's the question for all of us. So we completely ignore what we're supposed to do with regard to safety on the road. And when there's an accident, it involves a lot of people. So it is not just the drivers, it is not just the road, but public awareness is involved. So that if you are entering a vehicle, if it's a private vehicle, you have to put on your seat belts. You have to make sure that the right thing is done. You have to make sure that the vehicle is in good condition. You also make sure that the driver that is driving you is doing the right thing. There are many times I have stopped my driver and asked him, please, is that the way you drive? We just sit down and don't even mind. All we know is that they are driving us. And at the end of the day, calamities and words of lamentation. So, Mr. President, I think this issue is very, very germane. But we need to tackle it holistically. Not just the road, not just the driver, but it involves all of us. Nigerians need to be properly aware of the dangers of driving on the road. Mr. President, thank you very much.
Senator Danjumala.
In the country are very, very in a bad shape. And mostly, we don't used to have good maintenance. A contract will be given to a contractor to construct a road for about 100 or 200 kilometers. the supervisors that are in charge on that contract, they don't go day to day or intervally to investigate to know how is that road constructed. You find out that the roads that are constructing, they will just be putting sheer materials that are not equated to that job. They will not even provide necessary things that will give better standard of that road. They will just do it based on what they have without people coming to supervise them very well. Many of these contractors, they are just pretending to cover up with what they are being given up in order to gain or to get more profit on the contract they are giving, which is not supposed to. A job will be given with a fat amount of money. At the end of the day, you only use few amount of money in order just to execute that job at the right time. The period given to the contractor to construct that job, giving him 36 months to construct the road, he will take over 48 months instead of taking that 36, and nothing is being done to them. No accusation, no query is passed to them, and nothing is done to them. They will just carry that away. Most of the time, the contract given to some people, they don't go to follow up that. They don't even do the job. They will come back after collecting at the advance money given to them. They will forget about the job. And next time, if you are giving the contract, you will reissue it to another person who is at the losing side. It's the federal government. And most especially, we those that are using the road, we see this thing. Once you complain, they will take you as the wicked person. We see all these things. We don't care to complain and tell people to do the right thing at the right time. With this development, in fact, we have to sit up. The committee that was sent to set on this road construction, they should be very, very vigilant and focused. We should all be concerned. The road that we have in the country is not just one place that has the problem. Almost the whole road in the whole country, we have problem in one way or the other. And our contractors are not living up to standard. Please, my advice is more or less on the contractors that are constructing road. More supervisors should be given more attention to make sure that what actually have been given as contract should be followed up judiciously to make sure that that job is done in a very right way. Thank you, Mr.